everyone, and welcome. I want to welcome you to our PMOSH Safety Series webinar today. My name is Stephanie Jackson. I am the Associate Director of Hybrid Programs here at Georgia Tech. And again, I just want to welcome you to our first installment of our Safety Speaker Series for this fall, this year. We expect this to be a very interesting and engaging session. The benefits of occupational health and safety education in the non-traditional workplace with Susan Walsh. Today, she will provide a firsthand look at how the Georgia Aquarium balances regulatory requirements, animal welfare, and human health all under one roof. Now, if this is your first time here, or maybe you're returning, I just want to remind you that this Safety Speaker Series is presented by our Professional Masters in Occupational Safety and Health. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Babak Ashuri, Executive Director of the Professional Masters in Occupational Safety and Health program, and he's going to let you know a little bit about our program and then introduce our speaker for today. Dr. Ashuri.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. Really excited to be with you. My name is Babak Ashuri. I'm a professor here at Georgia Tech and also director of the Professional Master's degree in Occupational Safety and Health. A little bit about the program. It's a 2-year master's degree program offered through Georgia Tech. And the goal of the program is help you, those who are active in the occupational safety and health, take you to the next level. It's a leadership program. We also emphasize on technical side of the house, the industrial hygiene, ergonomics, and everything related to the OSHA guidelines and other things that you need to know, but definitely wants to help you to advance in your career. It's also designed for some that would like to switch from a different career or have done safety, but partially, but wants to dive deeper into the program. It's a 2-year program, and you take that as sort of a part-time. Most of our students keep their any one of them keep their regular job and they do this on top of their career, and they want to make sure that they in order to make sure to go through the program, they take one course at a time. Each course 7 weeks. You concentrate on that one course. All courses are asynchronous. You have the content professionally prepared ahead of time, and you get to your office hour every week and make sure to interact with your other colleagues, with the instructors and other people around you. We build that sense of cohort, and you go 2-year program. At the end, you apply all of your leadership skills, your cost benefit analysis skills, your risk management skills, your technical skills into work, and you work on a real world project sponsored by an organization, sometimes your own organization, sometimes another organization that we connect you with. That would become the capstone projects, followed by your commencement. And I'm glad we are starting this safety speaker series this year with one of our own alumni. Well, one of our best alumni, I have to say. Susan Walsh is here with us. A little bit about the Susan. Susan is the Senior Manager of Environmental Health at Georgia Aquarium and has been there for nearly 11 years. For those of you who are native of Atlanta or Georgia or visiting Georgia, I would say if you have only a couple of hours to see our city, you go to the Georgia Aquarium. That's the best place, and it's for all ages, all members of the family from every tribe, and that you might be coming, you would enjoy that masterpiece we have in downtown Atlanta. And Susan is right at the all elements of the optimal habitat for animals and the people, of course, the people who are interacting with animals and working there, and all the other visitors. The lab focuses on different aspects of the animal health regarding the water quality, air quality, and lighting quality. Areas of human health and safety includes chemical hygienes, of course, the OSHA, water quality for guest divers and swimmers, and water elements of the ISO 45001. Previously, she was the manager of environmental quality lab at New England Aquarium, guest instructor in aquarium science at University of New England, consultant to Louis Berger for Gulf of Maine Aquarium Project, director of the bioremediation for Biosolutions Company, and of course, very active with the AZA Safety Committee and Zoological Lighting Institute Board of Directors. Let's join me and give a warm yellow jacket welcome to one of our own, Susan Walsh. Floor is yours, Susan.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
We hear you, and share your screen one more time. That would be great. We can see your screen as well.
Dr. Ashuri, can you not see my screen?
I cannot. I saw that when you were saying just hi, but immediately after that, no. I think use that share button again and share your screen one more time. I think that should help. And for those out there, you may want to use the button, put some questions towards the end. We also open up for questions.
Can you see the screen now?
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not.
Susan, you should have a dialogue to say accept host. So it should be on the Zoom window. Click on the share and it should bring up the share dialog again.
Is that Kurt?
Yes.
Kurt, can you talk louder?
Yeah, it should be on your Zoom bar, the share with the green square with the up arrow. You need to share it from there.
Yeah, it's not on my Zoom bar. Let's see here.
Kirk, by any chance, you have a deck of slides that you may be able to share it on your side, and Susan just run through the slides?
Yeah, that's not working.
I do not. I didn't hear you, Stephanie. There
I
we
think
go.
she has it.
Now, does that help you?
We
Yes.
can see your screen, but we
Yeah.
don't see the PowerPoint. So click the PowerPoint so we can see the PowerPoint. Click the PowerPoint icon so we can see the actual slide. There we go. All right. You want to start the slideshow?
Should I make this larger so everyone can see it? I don't have as much control when I do that, though.
You do start, yeah, start the slideshow.
Start
Have
the
it for-
slideshow.
for-
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, then.
Wonderful.
Ready to go?
Yes.
I wanted to thank Dr. Ashuri, my professors, classmates, attendees, and coworkers. I especially want to thank the attendees for taking the time today to be part of this webinar. I will try to make it fun and hopefully helpful. I confided to a member of our senior leadership that I was feeling very nervous about doing this. I had not done a Zoom webinar, plenty of Zoom meetings and webinars, but this was a new combination. And she was very interesting. She said, "You are really passionate about this work. That will shine through." And I thought about that and I thought, you know, what a grounding thing to say. And I think that's also what we all have in common, is that we all are very passionate about, working to have safety for our coworkers, our guests, and our animals. Now, the safety program at Georgia Aquarium is distributed. This slide probably could be bigger, but you can see it's very distributed and different components of the safety program, and some of them overlap. My particular lab, the environmental health lab, is in charge of chemical hygiene, as well as testing the water, the air, and the lighting. So we provide consultation to which chemicals can be stored together, which ones are safe to bring into the building, how to safely dispose of a chemical. And then there are the veterinarians who are also in our group. They advise about emerging zoonotic diseases, which diseases are crossing, species barriers. There are bird flus that are now in seals, and it can go the other way too, where the animal can get a disease from a person. Our Asian small clawed otters actually caught COVID from a worker. So the diseases can go back and forth, and it seems to be happening increasingly. So that's another component of safety, both for the animals and for the people. Other components of safety include safety and security. We have all kinds of drills, fire drills, active shooter drills, and the physical safety of people is very important and would fall under that heading. Our dive safety program is amazing. There's some very well-trained divers so that when people take a dive into Ocean Voyager, they are as safe as they possibly can be. We have construction safety and cybersecurity, and our training department has, probably thousands of safety-related classes. But it is a distributed system, and so one of the things I was interested in is the overlap. Which programs have a potential redundancy, so that when we test air for VOCs, it helps both people and animals. When we test water for a residual medication, we do that both for animal safety and for people safety. So that leads me into the One Health initiative at the CDC. I think a lot of people have noticed that there's a huge amount of connection between safety for people, safety for animals, and safety for the environment, that we're not separate entities, that we all are connected and affect each other. And it's not just in our country, it's international. This was a diagram of One Health from an international point of view. And I really like this because it's very, very inclusive of all the different aspects of safety. For animal safety, the animals at Georgia Aquarium get incredible care. And we're certified by the American Humane Society, IMATA, and there's accreditations by AZA, which Dr. Ashuri had mentioned, the Alliance of Marine Mammal Parks and Aquariums, and we're regulated. And the thing about regulated is institutions like the USDA, they will come by the lab and make sure that we've been doing everything correctly. So for the USDA, we test the water for bacteria. Now they require that we test the water for total coliforms, which is really not the best bacteria to test for in salt water, but it's a requirement, so we do that. And there's regulations about if there's a failure, how many retests you have to do, in what kind of a time limit. So we have to follow that exactly. And they do, as I said, drop in and say, let's see your log notebook. And so far we've passed with flying colors, but we don't want to assume that we always will. So we try to stay on top of all of the different tests that we do. And not only tests, but if there is a problem, we try to be inclusive in our log notebook about what was going on. You know, was there a strainer basket that filled up with shrimp? You know, what was it that went on? Were people cleaning the windows? Did a pump fail? So we put all of those things into our log notebook for testing water. But the animals are very well taken care of. Also, under safety for animals, we have 10 vets and vet techs. We have visiting vets for specialty requirements like eye exams or dental exams. We have very advanced diagnostic equipment. We collaborate with other institutions, and the veterinarians collaborate with my lab because we are able to do some very advanced testing of medications in water. So why would we have to do that? Well, if you think about it, you know, if you're sick, you might take a pill. If we have a population of fish that are sick, we have to put the medication in the water. And with some of the medications, the microorganisms in the water eat the medication. So one medication is praziquantel, which is, you know, kind of a wormer. And as soon as you put that praziquantel in the water, the microorganisms think it's a buffet. They start eating it. And it's a problem because the veterinarians want the medication limit to be at a therapeutic level for, you know, say 10 days. But if it's all disappearing, then they're not going to get the therapeutic level. So we jump in, take samples, test the level of praziquantel, and then the veterinarians can add more to boost it up to the therapeutic level. And what we're doing is unusual. It uses a piece of equipment called HPLC, and other aquariums send us their water samples for that test to be done because, you know, it's an unusual test to have. And, you know, we're very pleased with our ability to do that test. We also have a commissary. We prepare our own food, and we have a nutritionist who gives advice about the best possible diet for all of our different animals. And we're looking into a 24-hour HAZWOPER for animals. And I believe the AZA did a class of HAZWOPER for animals at their yearly. And if you think about it, you have something like an oil spill, it affects the environment and it affects the birds. It affects many things. So I think it's a really good idea to have a 24 HAZWOPER for animals. And so we're looking into sending some of our team to training for that. Also, for safety for people, our dive team does all kinds of drills. There's a name for it when they pull the people out of the water, extrication drills. So they, will do drills where they pull the people out of the water. They do CPR, all kinds of things to help people that might have had an issue in the water. We do bacterial testing for the water. We have some of our team trained for the OSHA 40-hour. We have a very complete chemical hygiene plan, drills, and air testing. So you see a picture there of one of our staff holding an air tester. Now, some folks, when they do air testing, they put a piece of tape down and pick it up and say, you have some fungal spores. The problem is you need to know how many fungal spores per cubic meter. So with that particular device, we set a timer so we know how many cubic meters of air have been brought through the device and exposed to the fungal plate. And then we know exactly how many fungal spores we have. And in an aquarium, that can be very important because it's a wet environment. We also test the roof because there's always going to be fungus in the environment. But what we want to make sure is that the fungus inside the building is much less than the fungus outside the building. Because if it were ever higher, that's the definition of a sick building. So we test the number of fungal spores and the species. We want to make sure that certain problematic ones that release toxins are not in our animals' environment. We also test for VOCs and ammonia, different things that can come up with, especially with construction. And as I mentioned, we do water testing. We've also become certified as an autism center and a welcoming place for people in wheelchairs. And I included a couple of videos of one of our active shooter drills. Remember, this is just a drill, but we had the Atlanta police and we had actors pretending to have been harmed. A lot of excitement going on. A lot of drama, but it's good. It shows you where you might have a weakness in your response so that you can shore it up and be ready. And hopefully you'll never have to use that, but it gives you a certain amount of confidence to know that you've done it before. She was quite the actor. And safety for the environment. We are very good, very mindful of water conservation. Most of our water is goes around in a loop. We don't, the only water that really goes down the drain is water that's either evaporated or splashed out of a tank. So we conserve almost all of our water. We are sure to use green chemicals. We have a sustainability program. We're very careful not to put any salt water down the drain. And if any of you have experience with wastewater, you know that, the microorganisms in the wastewater plant are those that are freshwater microorganisms. And if you were to put a big slug of salt water down the drain and it reaches the wastewater plant, you can kill all the microorganisms, and then you have raw sewage going into whatever, the Chattahoochee River. So it's important not to put salt water down the drain. We also monitor contractor chemicals because, contractors come on site, they bring all kinds of chemicals. And so we have a program now where we ask them to disclose to us what they're bringing in, SDSs for all the things they're bringing in. And then we make sure to have testing devices for those chemicals so that we make sure that we don't have something like benzene in our air, both for animal health and for human health. So we have a program, and they also sign off that they're not going to put any of their chemicals down the drain as well. And we recycle, and we have a growing program of growing our own food for our animals. And I believe that cabbage might be going to turtles. Turtles love a lot of our vegetables, but that'll be a growing program, no pun intended. Now, PMOSH. I was very interested in PMOSH because I had always wanted to do a graduate program related to OSHA. I had the regular OSHA a few years before that, and I loved it, but I knew that there was more to it. So I had called people at Georgia Tech, and pestered them for a few years until finally I realized that there is now a program, PMOSH, and it looked perfect to me. And it might be the best decision I've ever made because it helped with every aspect of my job. They started off with servant leadership, which was a nice, gentle way to start a graduate program. And it's the way I had always managed, but I never knew what it was called. And I didn't realize that there's, books written about it. And so I learned more about it, and it reestablished in my mind that, yeah, that probably is the best way to manage. And then, as I mentioned, learning more about OSHA, and some of the regulations have changed, and I tried to keep up with that. And chemical hygiene, that class was very useful. Dr. Holroyd gave me excellent guidance for work issues, especially related to repetitive stress injuries. With our commissary, a lot of the commissary work involves chopping up fish and using a bandsaw to cut frozen fish and, lifting heavy frozen fish. So Dr. Holroyd gave recommendations for stretching and different ways to avoid the repetitive stress injuries. And then there was a class, and I forget which one this was, but we studied the ISO 45001. And that's actually where our capstone project idea came from, thanks to Chris Clanton. I brought up the fact that, I work in a place where some things we know are safety issues, but there's no regulation. So how do we know the right way to go about, being safe in situations where there is no regulation yet? And he said, wow, that'd be a great capstone. And, a few of us thought it sounded interesting. Come to find out, to come up with a regulation, it can take years. So we came up with a recommendation for best practices, but along the same lines. And then there was a class on culture change. And that's important because when you're trying to improve a safety program, you're really doing a culture change. And some people will be on board with it and some might not be so much. And also, one of the papers I did for that class, I named it Boomers to Zoomers. And I realized that in a lot of workplaces, there are 5 different generations now, all with their different beliefs and behaviors. And sometimes there can be friction between the different demographics, and they require different training. So if you're a person trying to put together a safety program and you want to reach out to a Gen Z versus a boomer, it might require a different approach. So the paper I wrote dealt with how to best put out a safety program to the different demographics. Now, the financials, might be the most important part of the whole thing. I found it the most difficult for me, but very interesting. And the thing I liked, here's some ergonomics to show you one of the things that some of the ideas I got from Jenny Holroyd. And she's chopping fish, and you can see, if you're making dinner, it won't be too much of a problem. But if you're doing that all day,
way that I get through that is I stretch my wrist like that, and they go back and forth, or I just pull on my arm like that. Like I feel it's a nice stretch all up in here and then back. Does everyone do that? Not everyone. Everyone should do that. But I know I do that because I've had some wrist issues in the past, so it helps keep my wrist, feeling better than. And do you do that task every day? Yes. We do this. This is an everyday kind of thing. A lot of the commissary work is every day. Chopping, a lot of repetitive motions like that. So trying to keep our hands and arms more nimble is best. What's the hardest thing to cut? Oh, we've got potato fish, which is about this big. Okay. We have to fillet that. So we cut off the head, and then we have to fillet the fish on both sides. And on a heavy day, we have to do about 9 of those. So, and especially if they're a little more frozen, then that starts to hurt our hands a little bit. So you start to feel it. Yeah. Are there any other stretches you can do for the bonito wrist? The bonito wrist? I don't think if I do any more. There are ones you can do with, bands. They have banded exercises, but that's more good at home. I just know for me, a quick and easy release of tension is that I do that a couple times, and it allows me to get a little bit of stretch in before I have to continue on with thank you very much. You're more than welcome. Okay, well.
now the financial part that I wanted to show you, maybe you all have seen this before, but I was amazed at how much an injury costs. So there is a website, it's called OSHA Safety Pays. So just for the demonstration for today, I put in 2 instances of an infection. So 2 people jump in the water, maybe they have an open wound, 2 people get an infection. So not only do you have the direct cost of going to the doctor, but then the indirect cost, which can involve other people having to do your work. And then you have the situation where how much extra money does your company have to make to pay for all of that? And pretty soon, you get up to like millions of dollars just from something simple like an infection. So that can be very useful to justify a safety program. And then we got to our capstone. And these are the 3 people on our immediate team. And the woman on the right, Courtney, came all the way from Nebraska to be part of this project. And they are standing in front of our fume hood in the environmental health lab. And you can see they're very excited to be part of this. And they want to do as much of the hands-on as possible. They wanted to learn about bacteria. They wanted to learn about how things could be improved. We really enjoyed our capstone. And there's always time for, you know, some fun frivolity and getting to see the animals, because, you know, it really does make it a lot more meaningful. You can do a chlorine test in a laboratory and it's a number, it's a color, whatever. But when you know it's connected to, you know, an animal's health and safety, it makes that test so much more meaningful. So our capstone attempted to fill the gap where a guest swimmer at Georgia Aquarium would be swimming in water that was not officially regulated. And some folks have a hard time believing that that could be the case, but it is the case. You know, the beaches are regulated, swimming pools are regulated, but a swimming event at an aquarium is not regulated. But we wanted to do the best thing possible, and we wanted to make sure the water was as safe as we can make it, but we did not want to have sterile water. We didn't want to get rid of the microbiome, because most bacteria are beneficial. And the animals rely on having certain bacteria in the water to boost their immune system, to keep them healthy. So it's a fine line. And so it's not a simple process. So our capstone looked at finding the sweet spot where we'd be disinfecting the water, but not killing off the microbiome, the cost of any potential equipment upgrades that we might need for a particular exhibit, the financial risks of illnesses and injuries, which is what I just showed you with safety pays, and then the need to protect the brand. A brand at a place like Georgia Aquarium is extremely important. People go there because they know we care about the environment, we take good care of the animals, we protect our swimmers. So we don't want any negative messaging to get out about a problem where we didn't do our best. So the result of coming up with that capstone is that we did put together a bacterial plan that was signed off by all the Georgia Aquarium managers, and it does have room to grow, because there's a lot of things about bacteria that we really still don't know, like which are the best ones to culture. So the plan has room to grow as we learn more. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with bacteria testing in water, there's a couple that are typical. They're called indicator species, because if you look at the water, say in the ocean, there's so many things in there. There's bacteria, funguses, you know, viruses, all kinds of things. And you can't possibly take a sample and then, you know, run all the possible tests in a timely manner. So what scientists have done, and this includes the EPA, they find a bacteria that always hangs out with bad guys, and they call it an indicator species. So when you get, you know, a bacteria like Enterococcus in seawater, you know, it's a good indicator that something's probably going wrong, that it's probably not safe water. So indicators are what we use for testing water for human safety. So total coliform is used typically in fresh water. Although the USDA, as I mentioned, does ask us to do it for marine mammals. The problem with using total coliform in seawater is that coliform are not hardy in salt water, so you're going to be underreporting probably. And also, there's a lot of interferences with the coliform organism in seawater. Things like Vibrio interfere with the test. So it's really not an exact test. In seawater, the better test is Enterococcus. And Europe uses that even for drinking water. So Enterococcus is best for salt and for fresh. So whenever we have the choice, we will use the Enterococcus test to make sure that the water is safe. And here's my team coming to the lab to learn how to run Enterococcus. You can see Courtney pouring 100 mils. And then John is pipetting. He's probably pipetting some of the agar, maybe some of the sterile water. And then we run the plate through a sealer. And then in the bottom right, you'll see an exposed plate. Now that wasn't from our exhibit. That was one from another exhibit, but glowing is bad. So when you have all those little squares glowing, you probably have a very high number, and that system would need either a water change or something. It would need something. But they really enjoyed doing the science. So this was the name of our capstone paper, Aquarium Equilibrium, a recommendation for microbiome optimization for humans, animals, and institutional health and safety. And then we graduated. It was one of the best things I've ever done. The people were wonderful. The professors were always willing to go above and beyond to help you, you know, whether it was the financial stuff with Dr. Ashuri, or whether it was, you know, repetitive stress injuries. You know, Dr. Holroyd was right there to help. Professors are amazing. And that's my fishy thanks. I tried to leave some time for questions and answers, because, you know, this isn't a typical workplace. You know, we do have a lot of people, but I think a lot of people in my PMOSH class were from more maybe manufacturing, more ex-military, different kinds of backgrounds. So I think at first they kind of looked at me and thought, no, why is she in PMOSH? She works in an aquarium. But you know, you could see from the distributed system graphic that there's all kinds of aspects of safety in an aquarium.
Thank you so
any
much,
questions?
Susan. That was fantastic. My name is Paul Schlumper. I'm one of the members of the PMOSH faculty. I work with the final course, the capstone course, as well as course number 2, Principles and Practices of Occupational Safety and Health. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A. We can start with those. Question number 1 is, what is the safety department structure and how often are comprehensive safety audits conducted?
Well, I don't know how to go backwards here, but our system is distributed, and we had decided years ago to have it be that way for now. So we don't, our safety department, the department that's called the Safety and Security Department, does a lot of the drills, the fire drills, the active shooter drills, and they manage the security staff at the aquarium. But if you were looking for the chemical hygiene information, you would come to me. If you were looking for the zoonotic disease prevention, you'd go to the vet. So for now, you know, maybe it makes it a little more complicated, but for now it's a distributed system, and we would have to guide you to the right person for your question.
Very good. Question number 2, can you describe the emergency action plan for events such as major power outage, significant water leak, natural disaster, etc.?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have a person in charge of regulatory compliance, and she has an emergency plan for everything. She told me I could call her if we had any questions, but we have continuity of operations for all kinds of things, for tornadoes, for power interruptions, for water interruptions, for, you know, losing the integrity of half of the building. So part of those plans involve having other aquariums that would take our animals, making sure we have vehicles, making sure we have extra chemicals. For a power outage, that affected chemical dosing. So what I had to do was look at what would we do for disinfection if we had a power outage and none of the pumps worked. So I have IV drip bags with chlorine. We make sure we have enough chlorine in our chemical storage area so that we could set up chemical drip. And we don't like using chlorine, but if our ozone is down and we have no choice, you know, we do have a backup plan. So we have continuity of operations plans for people, for animals, for pretty much any situation. And not only do we have the plan, but it's part of our e-learning. So everyone has to learn it and pass the test about it. So it's very comprehensive.
Very good. It looks like there's a question in the chat, and I might need help from the person asking this a little bit, but they're commenting on the video with the woman cutting the fish food and potential respiratory protection or lack thereof is in any type of disease going from marine animals to human, that sort of thing. Is that ever a concern for y'all?
I'm trying to think if there's any issues with marine mammals. Most of our issues are more around what the contractors bring into the building with the paints and the epoxies. I can't think of too much respiratory threat from a marine mammal. Sometimes if somebody is sick, they always will wear a mask. But otherwise, I don't think it's been determined that there's an immediate threat. The only exception I can think of is people with iodine allergies. Like I know there are some people that are so sensitive to iodine that they probably shouldn't even walk past a fish exhibit. That there could be, something in the fish that could set off their allergy. And so those folks are warned about that. We don't use iodine, but fish naturally can have some iodine. But that's the only thing I've heard of where there could be something in the air from a marine mammal would be iodine.
Very good. Y'all, we've got some time left. If anyone wants to type another question into the Q&A or into the chat, please go ahead and do so. We've got some time. Okay, here's either a question or a comment in the chat. It's similar to our organization not requiring masks during fish prep. Do require cut resistant gloves when handling knives though. So that's another comment in the chat.
Paul, I couldn't hear that. Was that a question?
No, it wasn't it was more of a comment. This person is saying it's similar to what we do, not requiring masks during fish prep, but do require cut resistant gloves when handling knives. I can't remember the video and what the person was wearing and whether that was a concern.
Yeah, I think for the cutting that was going on in the video, typically they just use the nitrile. For some of the bigger cutting, I know they have special cut-proof gloves, like when they use the bandsaw for some of the big frozen fish, they have specialty gloves to protect their hands from that.
Okay,
So I
good.
know they have specialty things for each kind of situation. Back to respirators, though, my department also does respirator fit testing. So if somebody is, going into a space where there's a lot of dust, of some sort, we will make sure that their respirator is fitted properly for them and that they have their own respirator, or they need to buy a respirator if they're a new person. And if they have a beard, they would need one of those devices called the PAPR. So, we try to handle all the respirator needs for the institution as well.
Very good. We do have a couple more questions that have come in. How are electrical hazards managed in a water-heavy environment?
Electricity is something I have a lot of respect for. So I always turn that over to the plant engineering department. I don't think there's ever been an issue where there's been a problem. So they seem to be able to manage it very well. I think, sometimes they will test for magnetic types of issues. If a shark seems to be disoriented, they will look for, stray current and things like that. But I don't think we have any issues with not knowing how to combine electricity and water. But that's not my field, though. Like, I always turn that over to the guys in plant engineering.
We've got a couple more that have come into the chat. How do you address machine guarding on bandsaws with the unusual shapes of cutting materials?
Safety issues for bandsaws. I don't know. I know that we try to get the most modern bandsaw. We go shopping and look for something that is known for a good safety profile. And the people are thoroughly trained and they have the correct PPE. But other than that, information about bandsaws, that's the commissary department. So my department is called Animal Health and Welfare. So it includes me, environmental health, and my team, the commissary, which is the food prep and nutrition team, and the vets and vet techs. So the commissary, if somebody's very interested in bandsaws, I could try to get information for them from our commissary department.
Very good. Another question on the chat. How are contractors' hazardous materials stored and regulated on site?
We don't let them store anything on site. If they're painting, of course, they're going to have their paint cans with them while they're doing the job. But we require that when the contractors are done with a project, they remove all the chemicals with them because we don't really have room to store all their chemicals. Plus, I think it would be a safety issue to have other folks' chemicals that may or may not be, labeled. Labeling correctly is very important. And, that's one of the things we do also is make sure that everything's labeled with the correct ingredients and the date when it was opened. So no, we don't have contractors storing chemicals.
Okay, great questions, y'all. We just had another one come in. Can you describe the emergency protocols for a diving incident within a large habitat?
We have an incredible dive team, dive safety officers, and one of them was in the Army, and all kinds of great experience, and they do drills. And they practice all kinds of drills, somebody having a heart attack in the water, somebody getting injured in the water, and they do drills for each kind of emergency situation, and they have everybody trained to respond properly. I've never been a part of one of those drills, but they do it probably once a week. I hear an announcement for a dive drill. So they they practice every possible outcome for a dive program.
Very good. I think that's all the questions right now. We've still got some time, y'all. If you have some more questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. Stephanie or Susan, do we have a slide with additional information on PMOSH for the folks in case they need to drop off?
We do. Kirk, could you load that slide deck for us, please?
Susan, you might need to stop sharing. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
So we still have time for more questions, but we wanted to make sure you guys had the PMOSH information in front of you. I know we have, looking at the list of attendees, we have some current PMOSH students in the audience, and we may have some folks that are looking into PMOSH. So certainly, if you have any questions, Susan's a great person to ask because she's been through it. But Dr. Ashuri or myself, Paul Schlumper, we will be happy to answer any of your questions regarding PMOSH. So with that, it looks like we do have another question that came in. Susan, are you still there?
Did we lose Susan?
We may have lost Susan.
We may have lost Susan. She was working from a brand new computer today, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can answer any questions about the aquarium, so I might not be much help there. What's the question? With all the chemicals you have, do you have any of them expiration dates? And if so, how are they discarded? Yeah, if we don't have Susan for that one, you may have to contact her offline with that question. I apologize for that. But and we have one more question that just came in on the Q&A. So Susan's contact information, has that been provided, Steph?
That has not been provided, but we can ask them to send the question, or we'll capture the question and we'll have her provide a response to the people who are asking. We can do that.
Where would they send those questions?
They can send it to our contact us form, and I'll put that in our chat real quickly so they can see that.
Great. Yeah, if y'all don't mind, any questions either specifically for Susan that you didn't get a chance to ask, or questions about the PMOSH program, go ahead and send them into the Contact Us site, and we'll be glad to answer them for you. So with that, it looks like this session is coming to an end. So all I want to do is say thank you very much. Appreciate you guys attending today, and look forward to seeing you again in a future speaker series session. So thanks again, guys.
We just want to remind you that the QR code for our upcoming PMOSH information session is available on the screen as well. And we will have a recording of this, which we'll be able to share as well in the coming days. Know that we are already accepting applications for fall 2026. So if you're interested in the program, please do look at that information and ask and submit any questions you have to us through our contact form. That's all we have. So thank you for joining us today. And we thank you for your interest in the Professional Master's in Occupational Safety and Healthcare at Georgia Tech. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.